Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it is day 3 of our May 2021 release, and I have a slimline card to share with you today. Hey everyone, so I'm using the new Kawaii birthday set, along with the new birthday blowout sentiment set, our slimline dies, and our stitch circle dies. So I already went ahead and stamped and colored these images with Copics. All of the colors will be listed on my blog. I cut this out with my brother Scan & Cut with a 0.4 border. Stamped with Ink on 3's Blackout ink onto Neenah Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock. So there we go. I didn't want to spend, that would have taken up a lot of the video. So there is a slimline card. Using our slimline dies. That is a piece of Paper Tray Ink craft cardstock cut at 8.5 by 7 1/8 and scored at 3 9/16. And that is our slimline die, our slimline card size for Jaded Blossom. And I went ahead and cut the slimline dies using my Gemini machine. I cut out Hey Cupcake 12-inch paper from Doodlebug. And those are 2 paper lines. And I also used a piece of Neenah Desert Storm, a scrap piece. And I cut out circles from our stitch circle die, just kind of willy-nilly all over my background to give spots for my little party things to peek out of. So that's what I'm going for. So I'm using my Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, and I'm going to layer those 2 pieces of cardstock together because I wanted it to have a bit of presence on my card. I wasn't sure if I was going to pop it up, so I wanted it to be a little bit thicker. I don't end up popping it up though. And you saw that I stuck down the other background piece using my ATG gun. There we go. So I put that off to the side and weight them down just to dry. And now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the little faces using my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and just, you know, one of my acrylic blocks. Now I will rub them, you know, between my fingers, and then I will go ahead and stamp them off on the side to make sure they're stamping well. I've got a cat in this house. Cat hair gets everywhere, and it's a real bummer when a cat hair gets on your ink pad and messes up your stamped image. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just making sure that I get a good stamped image, and I'm going to stamp these all on each of these images. Every single face in this set will be on all of these different Kawaii images. Everyone knows I love adding little faces to my inanimate objects, and that's what I did today. So fun stuff. Like I said, all my Copic markers will be listed on my blog. Yeah, this was just really easy, you know, adding little faces to each little image. And I quite liked coloring these images. I chose my markers by comparing them to the actual pattern paper that I was using, just so I can have an idea of what would go. Remember, when you're coloring on craft, it looks a little bit different, so I like to test it out first. And I find it's a little more forgiving. If it doesn't exactly match, it still goes. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because it's darker. Now I'm going to use R24 and just dot on and fill in the tongues. Now you do not want to touch the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It is not Copic friendly. I just wanted the really dark, crisp image for the faces. So, you know, all of my Kawaii set was stamped with Ink on 3's Blackout ink. That's Copic friendly. But when I'm stamping the faces, I'm using the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Now I'm taking out my Jelly Roll pen. This is a Secure white in a number 10. And I'm just adding the little highlights to the eyes. That's a little bit of a thicker, it's a broader point. I prefer this one for adding highlights, but I do bring out my number 8 when I color in the sclera of the eyes, the white part of the eyes. Because when you're not stamping on white, you know, your eyeballs are going to be the color of what you stamped or colored behind, and I hate that. That's another thing that I hate. When people leave those whites of the eyes like the color of the background, it drives me crazy. And I know these are things that are silly, you know, the things that keep me up at night, I can tell you. So anyway, now I'm just quickly adding in the white part of the eye with the number 8. And I'll also color in the teeth. And, you know, if you're stamping this on white paper, when you start out, before you color anything, you could stamp the faces on first and then, you know, avoid them. And then you don't have to worry about this. But, you know, because I stamped these on after, this is what happens. But I find it's easier to color an image when I'm not having to fuss around going around a face, if you know what I mean. I'm not the best colorer. I'm still learning. So that's what I do anyways, just to make it easy for myself. So there we go. And I'm just adding in the little whites of the eyes. So fun stuff. I love this little set. I think it's adorable. And the faces are divine. I love them. So now here is my, slimline card, one of the, like the internal die, right? And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment on this background. And I'm using my Misty because I'm anticipating I'm going to have to stamp it a couple of times. I'm using that same VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And it says, heard you're old AF, but that's none of my business. And I won't put the swear in there, but, for those of you that don't mind dropping a little F-bomb now and then, I think this will crack you up. It cracks me up. All of my girlfriends would get a kick out of this. Because if you heard our potty mouths when we're scrapbooking or crafting, you'd be shocked. You'd be just shocked. So I have to keep it clean on my videos, and I do. Because, not everyone appreciates that kind of stuff. So, but I quite think this is an adorable. It's just adorable. So now I'm sticking this down. I let it dry a little bit, and then I'm sticking down this piece onto the scalloped background for the slimline. I love Doodlebug papers. They are so cute. This Hey Cupcake line is adorable. Just adorable. Love it, love it, love it. So there we go. And I love the bright green and pink together. I just think it's fun. And I thought it went best with, my colored images. So now what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to pop up the tops of the images, but glue the bottoms of the images on the card, tucking them behind in the circle. So I'm having them popping kind of out of the card. Now I used 3 different sizes of stitch circle dies from our stitch circle dies from Jaded Blossom for that background. Super easy stuff, really. And I can probably tell you the measurements of those circles. So I have one that is like an inch. Like an inch. I have one that's like 2 inches. And I've got like an 1.5 inches. So, and I repeated those sizes. So roughly those sizes. I didn't want to put it right down on my card because, it's still wet. So now I'm just popping up this little cake. This is my favorite image. I don't know, there's something so cute about it. So I'm going to pop up the candles because, I say it all the time. I love dimension, and it drives me bonkers when my cards arrive to the people I'm sending them to and they're all wonky and flat. So that's why I use quite a bit of foam tape. I'm not skimpy with the foam tape. And like I said, this is all, I think I'm just using Stampin' Up! Dimensionals on this one. I'll pull in my 3M foam tape too, whatever works for what I'm doing. But that's what I've got on here. That's what I'm doing here. There we go. So I'm just going to pop that on. And how cute is that? And I think adding that extra layer of Neenah Desert Storm behind the green, I find just makes it a little tougher for pulling it up, so it's not going to rip your lighter weight Doodlebug paper while you're trying to stick stuff behind it. I don't know. I quite liked it. I just cut them at the exact same time. So I cut the rectangle. I put the green paper and the Neenah Desert Storm paper together, and I cut the rectangle, and then I taped these circles on, and I cut them too, all at the same time. I just ran it through a few times just to make sure it cut right through both pieces. I'm going to trim off that little party blower. I don't even know what those are. Are they party horns? I don't know. But anyway, you remember those. You blow them and they're like a little paper tongue that kind of flies out of your mouth. Yeah. So there we go. So that little candle, when I stamped the face, it left off the little droplets coming off the tongue. So what I did was I went ahead and I used the same ink and I stamped it on the background, and then I will put the candle lining it up in front of it so it sort of looks like it's coming out in the right place. And I just used my BG15 just to fill in those little droplets because that was a color I used on this card and it was easy just to pull it out. when I make a card, I put all of the markers that I used in a bucket on my desk. It's actually an M&M holder, but I put them all together, and that way I can keep track of what colors I used for creating the card. Just makes it a lot easier for me, you know, when I'm writing my list. As long as, you know, if you're ever wondering what I use on a card, all you have to do is go over to my blog, Lee Scraps at blogspot.com, and I list literally everything I use, from the paper, right, markers, bling, whatever it is, it's listed there. So now I'm pulling out that Sakura White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10, and I'm just adding a few little highlights. So, you know, fun stuff. And, you know, nothing like, you know, I'm not really paying attention to light source. I'm not that good. I just add a few on here and there just to, you know, make it pop, and then that's it. And I move on and make another craft project. I don't worry about it too much, you know. There we go. But I quite like how this one turned out. It's quite bright. It's kind of a dark day in my craft room today, you know, so it could be better. And you'll notice that I was using my sort of crafting on my Stampin' Up! Pad today. There we go. So now this is a 1-inch piece of that same green paper from the Hey Cupcake Doodlebug 12-inch line. And then this is a little under 1 inch. I think it's like 3/4 of an inch or something like that. These are scraps. And I made a little flagtail on one end, and I'm going to pop that in the center. I'm just trying to make this a little bit more interesting on the inside of the card. That's all. Nothing too great. I'm going to cut off the overhang with a pair of scissors. Oh, I'm not even in the frame, but that's what I do. And now I've got the odds and ends that match the Hey Cupcake line from Doodlebug. And I pulled out a little cupcake, and I pulled out a cake. And I'm going to add Jada Blossom's little faces to these two little images, and I'm going to put them on the inside of the card. So, you know, easy peasy stuff. Look how cute that is. I think these faces are so darn cute. You can probably put them on literally anything because they're adorable. I had to hold myself back to not put glasses on this card. I know, you know, you guys probably think I'm crazy, but I put glasses on stuff too. And I really wanted to. Now I pulled out RV09. That's just another color that I used on this card. So I'm just, you know, coloring the tongue, making sure I do not touch that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And I'm pulling out my little Sakura White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10, and then the number 8 for when I fill in the sclera, just because it's got a little bit of a finer tip. I like the 10 though for putting on in the highlights. It's just like, you know, bolder. So now I'm using Doodlebug's Shape Sprinkles, the Rainbow Hearts, and I'm going to sprinkle a few of these around the card base. You know, just in coordinating colors. I'm using a little pen blade there to pick them up. You can use anything. You could use your fingers. It's just that I tend to not get things very straight if I'm using my fingers. So I try to have something holding that dot or, you know, embellishment, whatever I'm putting on my card. There we go. So I'm just putting a bunch of different ones on there. And fun stuff. There we go. So now I am going to stick down this little cake and the little cupcake on the inside of my card. And then, you know, it just makes it look like it's not an afterthought. There we go. And how cute is that? Now I'm going to add a sentiment on the inside too. And this one says, your birthday is becoming a real fire hazard. Sort of a play on the old as F stamp on the front of the card. There we go. So I'm stamping it again in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink in the lower left or lower right hand corner. There we go. Fun stuff, eh? And really easy. Like, you know, you just can't go wrong with this. So now I'm pulling out my Nuvo Crystal Drops in Simply White because, you know, that's how I roll. And that's about it. So thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by. Be sure to come by tomorrow because I'll have another video and another project to share for you. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog and check out all the design team's projects because they are amazing. And I can't wait for you to see what's on the ball for tomorrow. You're going to love it. So thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.